February 12th, which is Charles Darwin's 215th birthday. So happy birthday, Chucky D. I'm Aron Ra, and my guest tonight is my wife, Lilandra. Lines are open if you'd like to call in with a question or an argument or about a particular topic. 720-619-2288 if you're calling from the U.S. Or if you'd like to call in from the web. Or if you'd like to call in from the web, you can find the number in the description. Super chats of $5 or more will be read at the end of the show. Lilandra, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Hair is a little messy, running around.
All right. So, you want to open up with a topic? Do we have anything to talk to the people about?
It's been a while since I've seen you in the living room. Joke. That was a joke, because we live together.
Oh yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, we did just come off a boat, so we were a week in the Caribbean on the Free Thought cruise. We were both featured speakers there, and we both, while we talked about other things, we both touched on women's bodily autonomy, abortion rights, that sort of thing. And I think both of our presentations were very well received. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I had to get up because the cat popped the door open. Okay. Yeah, it was pretty well received. We were lucky that the Central Florida Free Thought community invited us to do the cruise with a bunch of other free thinkers, and then people even joined our presentations early in the morning, which is relatively early on a boat for 9 a.m. because on the days you're at sea, you can kind of sleep in, but on the other days, your whole day is scheduled getting off the boat and onto the island. And people still, everybody who signed up came to our speeches, and there was a lot of involvement in what I had to talk about, which was reproductive rights, because this is an election year.
Yeah, and it was our first time doing a cruise, that sort of thing. I've been saying for a while that I've been to like 22 countries. Now I can say I've been to 24. Dominican Republic and Bahamas apparently are their own independent nations. And it's funny hanging out with rich people like this, and pretending to be rich. Although we're snorkeling in the Bahamas and all like that, but I'm so not. Yeah. Pity me. It's just we parked our ship pulled into St. Thomas and parked right behind Jeff Bezos' triple-masted schooner. He has like the largest sailboat in the world, and that was a mammoth-looking thing. Anyway,
a lot of people working overtime in Amazon to help him buy
that. Yeah, indeed. So let me check call-in studio. We do have someone in ready to talk to us. You ready to take a call, dear?
Okay. What are they talking
about? This is James. He's an atheist. He wants to talk about the cosmological evolutionary theory. James, you're on SkepTalk.
Yes. Hello, Aron. Lilandra? What is it?
It is Lilandra.
Yes, nice to be talking with the both of you this evening. I'd like to talk about cosmological evolutionary theory. Not sure if I'm the one who coined it or any of you ever heard of that before, but it's kind of like my own little thing I've been tinkering with, kind of like the evolution of the universe and how the evolution started to evolve and has evolved now into its present current incarnation.
Okay, well, this may be a bit of a pet peeve, but I always lament when creationists try to lump every possible theory of origins into what they call evolutionism. And so they like Kent Hovind will talk about there's six different kinds of evolution. And one of them, like evolution and cosmological evolution and organic evolution or whatever, and then micro and macro at the end. But evolution, from my perspective, is it's strictly in biology. It's strictly descent with inherent modification. It has to do with genetics. So I prefer not to while evolution, while the cosmos has evolved in the sense of changing over time, which is just what the colloquial word means, the theory of evolution is strictly limited to genetics. But go ahead.
Do you think there would be a better phraseology for if you wanted to say something like this? What I'm getting at? Do you think there'd be a better way to phrase it? And if so, what would that be?
No, you're fine in using that as long as people understand that the theory of evolution has fuck all to do with cosmology.
Right.
Things
So
change over. That's
what about like the development of the universe?
Phrase it how you like.
So
let's go ahead and talk about it.
Sure. So we understand. Are we in agreement that the universe did not arrive out of a null state? Nothing can arise, or something can't arise from something. So something in the universe didn't arise from a null state.
How do you know that?
From my perspective,
like you didn't define what something and nothing is, and how do you know that something can arise from nothing?
Okay. Well, I'm not proposing that something can't arise from nothing necessarily. I think the book's still out on that one. But I've heard it said that
I have heard a couple of people say, in some sort of sense, that the universe came essentially from nothing, or something along those lines. But what I'm hearing from cosmologists is that an absolute nothing never existed. So the common understanding now, regardless what Stephen Hawking may or may not have said at one point, the common understanding now is that the universe has, in one sense or another, always existed. That material energy cannot be created or destroyed. The universal wave function remains the only way to understand the universe, and that's consistent as well. I've seen studies of different cosmologists talking about what was it like before the Big Bang, because there was a time, in some models, it's conceptually impossible for there to be a before the Big Bang, but then others are proposing something else, and where the arrow of entropy points the other way. Cosmology is not my thing at all. I'm not even... I have to confess, I'm not even really interested in it.
Right. The reason I would side with you, Aron, and say that the universe did not arise from nothing is because nothing isn't something and nothing doesn't exist. It's just it doesn't exist. So how can the universe arise from something that isn't even there, doesn't exist?
Yeah.
My theory is that perhaps the universe arose from some sort of proto-energy, that there was proto-energy like around.
All right. Well, with all due respect, the word theory is another one that is often misused in science. Science. The rules for a scientific theory are different than the rules for a mathematic theory. You don't have a theory until you have a field. You have a body of knowledge within a field of study that is tried and tested and has profound predictive power as well as explanative power. What you have is a hypothesis.
James, is there any Is there any way to turn your volume down? Several people are commenting that you're a little bit loud. Do you have any tools, Aron, that could bring his volume down a little?
Bring the guest's volume down?
I've already adjusted it down.
I'm hearing myself booming, but I am barely able to hear my wife or the moderator. I can hear the guest just fine.
I know that everybody's, first things first, everybody's saying the guest's volume is too loud. Do you have any tools to lower his volume?
I don't.
I just lowered my phone, my outgoing volume. Did that help?
Okay.
Yeah, I think
so. That's better than nothing. Thank you, James. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
I already adjusted it at the mixer level. This is as good as it's going to get.
Okay. Right,
Your
and how
volume
do I
is
sound,
to
everybody?
the producer's volume.
Yeah, Morgan?
Yes.
Yeah, you and Lilandra are both quiet to me, but I can hear myself coming back through my own speakers, and I can hear the guest. Both of our volume is too high.
All right.
So, Aron,
Sorry.
I wanted to ask you this question, and this might be of interest to you. I'm not sure. Yeah. But no, I'm sure you've heard it said that they're hoping they can squeeze down and crunch down the unified theory of everything into an inch-long equation. Do you think that's ever going to be possible, or do you think that equation would at least have to fill a board?
Any answer I would give would be uninformed speculation, and
Yeah.
therefore of value.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't
Well,
even
thanks,
know
guys.
how you would assign variables to something like that. Like, are you talking about like combining energy equations and mass? Like, how would that even? Like, if you are you still on the call, James?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I mean, it's like there's so many different things going on. I don't see how anybody could reduce something to that small an equation.
Right,
Well, I think
me either. And like
I think
for the longest time.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Aron.
I think what he's talking about is instead of having an entire chalkboard, that you end up with something succinct like E equals MC squared, something like that.
Yep.
I know, but like for everything, not just matter and energy. I don't know. That sounds complex to me.
Not my field at all.
Like, on the topic of cosmological evolution, people, I don't think in science call it that, but if you're meaning it as a metaphor that things were different and they changed in the universe from what they used to be, well, sure.
Yeah, and that's only how I mean it. I don't mean it like biological evolution. I only mean evolution as a metaphor to say that like the universe started somewhere, or was always in the process of beginning, and then like changed a little bit. Then we have its current incarnation, and then what it will become, and then what it will be, and in its development, only in a developmental sort of nature.
Yeah, and that's fine because you and I can distinguish different contexts where a lot of my critics cannot. So that's what.
Yeah, and you do have a lot of those, aren't you? You do have a lot of critics.
Yeah.
All right, I was wondering before I go, can you recommend a good stout that's out this year?
It's from Illinois. What is it? Goose Island, Urban County.
Nice. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah,
I do fancy a good stout. Thanks, guys.
Instead of syrup. All right.
Thanks
Thank you.
Yep, bye-bye.
Before we go to anybody else, Aron, we're sometimes people in the community call us a power couple, and often when we're together, Aron just assumes, I think, that people, since they know him, they know me, and I don't get an introduction. But I've done. I do a lot of things with Aron. Like we finished a book, and it was mostly his book, but I contributed to it. I write some videos for his channel, and do some of the live streams. And I've done some things in the secular community, and that was what my talk on the boat was about reproductive rights, and why do we have to do things the way that religious people do them. And Aron's was about dying, so why do we have to die like religious people want us to die? I mean, those ideas are how old and how far has medical science advanced in both areas? Why do we have to live that way anymore?
Yeah. So we've got another call coming up. You ready to take one, dear?
Okay.
Okay. And we have a theist calling. This is Sam from Nevada who wants to talk about Pascal's wager. Sam, you are on SkepTalk.
Yes, hello.
Hear me? Yes.
I watched that video of Pascal's wager, so I watched that a couple of times, but
Okay.
so I know the objections and I know quite a bit about it. I watched that whole video more than once, but I like Pascal's wager. I really do. And if Christianity is true, you guys are in trouble. You know, I just like Pascal's wager a lot. I really do.
Okay, so when according to Pascal's wager,
wait a minute.
when you die,
Aron,
hold on,
wait.
dear. He doesn't realize the glaring flaw. I just
hold on.
need to see the flaw. Okay, fine. You go first.
Are you a Christian, Sam?
90%. I like. I'm not sure if it's true, but if it is true, then Pascal's wager makes sense. It's kind of a
Okay,
hedge.
what percentage of you is Muslim?
Is that the thing that keeps you holding on to Christianity, Pascal's wager?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
What you said you're 90% Christian. Are you any percentage Muslim?
No, I mean those other religions could be true, but Pascal's wager it makes sense to, because if Christianity is true, we're in trouble.
Okay, and if Islam is true, you're in trouble because being Christian and believing that God has a partner or that God has a descendant son, that's damnable offense in Islam. So if Islam is true, you're fucked according to Pascal's wager. What?
Right. I know. You're right.
So the problem with Pascal's wager is it's a false dichotomy. That's probably the biggest problem.
Because if it's true, it haunts me.
How can you quantify
Say that again.
how true it is, Sam?
Sorry?
What could measure? How do you measure how true it is? What measurement are you using to say how true Pascal's wager is?
Well, I know Christianity doesn't have the evidence, or all religions are probably man-made. All I'm saying is that if Christianity is true, then we're screwed. And Pascal's wager, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So do you think God, if God existed, would God be aware of this?
So sure, he'd be aware of everything.
That only a third of the world, through no fault of their own, it's in fact entirely God's fault that 2/3 of the world believe in something else. So God wants to damn all of these people, not for doing good or bad. He's not making any judgments of morality. He's judging over what and whether they believe, regardless of whether they're good or bad people. You think God would, if God existed, he would certainly notice this massive flaw in his own theology, right?
Pascal was a smart dude. He was a scientist, and the 4 quadrants. It's a smart wager. I know it's like a bet, a hedge, but I don't know.
Have you ever heard of something called a fallacy called an appeal to authority? Do you know what that is?
No.
It is.
No.
If it's not always a bad thing to even bring up Pascal as a authority if he's an authority on the subject you're talking about, right? Now you're saying Pascal came up with these various things that other people respect, but does that mean, by extension, that what he's saying about the wager makes Christianity true? Do you know?
No, we don't know if it's true. Pascal lived a long time ago, and we're still talking about the Pascal's wager. So I think it was creative of him to come up with it.
I think another point that you need to understand is that we know for certain, we know that the global flood of Noah's Ark never happened. Adam and Eve are genetically impossible, and even Christian geneticists admit this. There's no truth to the fable of the Garden of Eden. That is a metaphor. That is a parable. It's not history. It didn't happen. It's not just that it couldn't happen. We know that it didn't happen. Same with the flood. Same with the Tower of Babel. We know that all of the scriptures, not just the Bible, but all of the scriptures of all the religions, including the Bible, were written by men, mere fallible men, and that's why they're all full of nonsense and contradictions. The Bible is not true, although most of those fables already disproved. So if Christianity is true, Christianity depends largely on that, and the modern concept of Christianity also depends on our having a soul. Neuroscientists and even neurophilosophers now say that the soul is not possible, does not exist. Not just that we don't have evidence for it, we have evidence against it.
Let's say that let's work this in reverse. Let's say that Aron or me quotes a famous atheist scientist whose work is really admired in the scientific community, like Stephen Hawking. Does that make atheism true?
Yeah.
Because Stephen Hawking is an atheist? Sam?
I see what you're saying.
Okay. So, just the fact that Pascal said it alone does not carry enough weight unless he's backed that up with some sort of evidence.
Yeah. But I see it as a hedge. I see it as kind of a safety net hedge, because if the Jesus thing is true, if he did rise from the dead, and we don't believe it, then we're screwed. So Pascal's
why would God, think about this now, if a God really existed, why would he care whether we believed some story that's told to us by questionable people who clearly don't know what they're talking about? Why would God savagely and mercilessly, relentlessly, eternally torture you to the most extreme degree imaginable, forever and ever and ever, simply because you didn't believe the bogus lies of some idiot?
Right. That makes sense.
If it makes sense, then what would it take to flip your flag away from being a Christian, but to fly
I'm not 100% Christian, but I'm maybe 80 to 90%, just mainly because of Pascal's wager. That makes I like that.
Pascal's wager is famously one of the weakest arguments.
I think about Pascal's wager all the time.
Okay. Pascal's wager is probably considered to be one of the weakest of all theological arguments.
What you're sounding like to us is that you are a Christian, mostly a Christian, and it's because of Pascal's wager. Am I getting your argument correct?
I've looked at the other religions, and they just seem crazy to me. If anyone
talking snakes and donkeys don't sound crazy?
If anyone is true, it's probably the Jesus story.
Okay, so having God create himself as a son, or create a son, to then come to earth, write nothing, tell nobody anything of import or anything that is beyond the knowledge of the day, don't give us a manual, don't explain why microbes exist, why we should wash our hands. Remember, Jesus said not to wash our hands because he believed in demons and he believed in magic spells, and he was a self-described exorcist who thought he could heal things by incantations, by praying, or exorcising demons, because he didn't understand pathogens, he didn't understand germs or bacteria. He thought diseases were caused by demons.
So, Sam, does it sound silly
bit. Sure,
said
I know.
other religions sounded silly. Does it sound silly to you that like aren't saying that snakes talk and Jesus did these things that are not very realistic? Does that sound silly to you?
Well, Christianity may not be true. It may not be. But couldn't Pascal's wager be used for like a deist, like David, a deist god, or any intelligent supreme being, anything out there? Couldn't Pascal's wager still be used for any god?
No.
No.
Pascal's wager depends on a false dichotomy where you have to believe what I say, even though I have no evidence. You have to believe what I said just because I said so. If not, my personal deity gets very, very angry when you don't believe my empty-ass, unsupported assertions. So my God will punish you for not believing in me. So if I'm right, and you know I'm not, but if I'm right, then my God will punish you because you didn't believe my empty-ass assertions of impossible absurdity.
And let's put it another way, Sam. Let's say I make a claim that if you don't buy a lottery ticket and you could have won. Now, is that a good reason for you to buy a lottery ticket?
Don't buy one because you don't think you'll win? What did you say?
If I tell you that you should always play the lottery because you could win, and you don't, is that a good reason for you to play the lottery?
I would probably say yes, because you could win. If you don't play, you can't win.
Well, that's fair logic. How many dollars you got? Because in order to get that turn that into a probability on your part, you would have to exhaust your entire fortune.
I could make any number of
questions. Hate Pascal's wager. It sounds like you just dislike and pretty much hate Pascal's wager. And I just think it's a creative thing that Pascal.
Are we even talking about the same thing?
Brilliant.
It's not that I hate a stupid argument that fails because it's stupid. It is a stupid argument. It fails because it's stupid. I don't hate it. I'm sure Pascal. It's pretty sad is that that's the thing Pascal is famous for. This false dichotomy that he didn't think through. He's in an entirely Christian collective, so it never even occurred to him that what if Hinduism is true, and you'll be perpetually reincarnated until you achieve Krishna consciousness.
I'm not a complete idiot, and this Pascal's wager haunts me. It haunts me.
How? It's a stupid argument.
Because I've said a couple of times now, if it is right, then we're screwed. So why not believe it as kind of a bet?
First of all, there is no chance that Christianity is correct. None. Okay, we don't have souls. Without souls, there can't be an afterlife. Without an afterlife, there's no heaven or hell. Therefore, God is moot. Right. So let's ignore that for the moment. It's an empty threat that requires a false dichotomy. So, if Christianity is true, that doesn't even make any sense, because Christianity contradicts itself. We have to. What would it mean to you for Christianity to be true?
Maybe Pascal are you saying Pascal was a complete idiot, moron?
No, don't.
Did I say anything even remotely similar to that at any point ever in my life? No, I didn't. I said nothing vaguely similar to that. What I did was I asked you a direct question that you ignored. I'll repeat it. What does it mean to you? I said that Pascal's wager is, it's sad that he's famous for this because it is a stupid argument. That doesn't make him a complete moron. It just means that he didn't think this thing through. He didn't compare it to other religions around the world. He's only looking at Christianity or not Christianity. That's the biggest reason that his argument fails. That's the biggest failure of it. But you keep going back to, if Christianity is true, then we're screwed. Well, what the hell does it mean for Christianity to be true?
If Jesus rose from the dead, it's probably true. If he did not rise from the dead, then it's completely not true.
Let's say Jesus rose from the dead. Let's pretend that Jesus rose from the dead. How are we screwed?
Yeah, if he did not, Christianity is false. I'll agree with that.
Okay, let's pretend that Jesus rose from the dead. How does that make us screwed?
Because we're going to hell?
Well, that would mean Christianity is true, and you're probably going to go to hell instead of heaven.
Oh, okay, so it's not about whether Jesus rose from the dead. It's this empty threat of you either believe the unsupported assertions of people who obviously don't know what they're talking about, or you suffer the threat of a fate worse than death. Right? So
That's
Christianity
Yeah, it
being
doesn't
true has nothing to do
compare,
with it.
but
You're,
that's
you're
what it
worried about
is.
being
That's what
damned.
it is.
You're worried about being damned to hell for having free thought, for not believing unsupported assertions of impossible absurdity.
There may not be a heaven or a hell. I don't know.
There
I don't
isn't.
know anything.
right. You don't
There
know.
isn't.
Pascal's
There
wager.
isn't either one.
All I said.
But that wasn't the point I was going for.
That's a good place to start, saying that you don't know. Not saying that.
Nope.
I don't even know how you're setting up this dilemma for us, that if it is true, we're going to hell. You know, because it's like me giving you some kind of consequence that leprechauns will steal your socks if you're not careful. Why don't
So
you,
what was the reason?
like,
What was the reason that?
magic, and there's like, I don't know, it's like if you threaten your kids with something, like Santa's not going to visit if they're not good boys and girls, you know, or not, you know. It's like, you're in order for us to think there's going to be some kind of consequence to not believing in Christianity, you're going to have to demonstrate to us a reason to believe that Christianity is real. Or, you know,
And it has nothing to do with. It has nothing to do with whether Jesus rose from the dead. The reason that Jesus was supposed to have risen from the dead was to absolve us of our sin, right? But clearly that failed, because if he did rise from the dead, then we're not absolved. We still have the sin. We're still damned. So the very thing he saved us from, he didn't save us from. So the thing we have to be worried about is that Jesus is a vindictive little bitch who decides that if we don't believe the people who are lying on his behalf, then he's going to torture us mercilessly forever for no reason.
I've heard this before. I mean, on the surface, it sounds like it's a perverse blood death cult. Really, that's what it sounds like.
You're chopping in and out a bit. Say that again, please.
I mean, on the surface, it does sound like it's a blood death cult. Pretty perverted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds that when you go deeper, too. I've spent an awful lot of time studying religion. It's madness. The deeper you're into it, the further into madness you get. And the sad thing is there's no truth to it. That's the really upsetting thing.
That. I like that. But Pascal's wager still haunts me, and I still think it will continue to haunt me at least a little bit.
Okay. I can't understand why. When I evaluate Pascal's wager, it collapsed. It was the first of all of the religious arguments that I'd ever seen that collapses on its face. It doesn't function. It's self-defeating. But you're very impressed with it for reasons I can't begin to fathom. And I don't think we're going to make any progress here.
For 35 years, right? And one of the last things that I let go of before I didn't believe in Christianity anymore is the fear of hell. I would even have nightmares of Jesus telling me that if I denied men before him, that he deny me before his Father. And
right.
So I understand the fear of hell, which Pascal's wager has that built-in fear of hell. So, like, a lot of people in the comments are mentioning, okay, Pascal's wager is always acting like it's Christianity or not Christianity. But what if it's the Muslim God? Then you're in big trouble.
But it
You're
could also be the loss of heaven. The loss of heaven, not being able to see your loved ones again, you know, all of
You're
that.
not going to anyway. There is no heaven. We don't have souls. There is no afterlife.
What if someone told you you don't believe in Allah and his prophet Muhammad, you're going to Islamic hell? What would you tell them?
How do you know that?
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
When you tell us well, if Christianity is true, then we're in trouble. We think, how do you know that?
Yep.
Yeah, nobody
And
knows.
that's the question.
Nobody knows whether there's a God. Nobody knows there's an afterlife, obviously. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Let me put it to you another way. There is no evidence for any of these things. So there's no reason to believe them. But there is substantial evidence against all of these things. So we also, not only do we not have any reason to believe it, we have really good reasons not to.
It sounded like 2 minutes ago you said you were pretty much 100% sure, not 99.999, but 100% sure that there's no afterlife.
I gave no
you
percentages
want to stay
at
with 100%?
I gave no percentages at either time.
But you said there is no afterlife, like you were 100% sure. Are you
Right,
sure
there
about
isn't.
that?
Because you have to have a soul to have an afterlife. And since we don't have souls, logically, we can't have an afterlife now, can we? Now, the original Christian concept was very different. The original Christian concept was much like the Muslim concept is now, where you don't have a supernatural soul. It was supposed to be your original physical body that was supposed to come crawling out of the grave again. Remember when the undead saints doing the Thriller in downtown Judea in the Bible, where there were supposedly many witnesses, except you didn't get any testimonies from any of them? So that's what they thought was going to happen. Some predetermined day, we're all supposed to rise up from the grave as some kind of undead thing and live forever with Jesus. Maybe in a cloud, I don't know. I think that was a later embellishment.
Right. It might be better to say you're 99% sure there's no afterlife whatsoever rather than 100%.
Once again, I never gave any percentages at all. You read that in. Logically, if we don't have souls, we can't have an afterlife, now can we?
I mean, if you had to put a percentage on it, would you say 100 or would you say 99?
Why would I have to put a percentage on it?
I'm just curious.
If you have no soul, then it's a yes or no question. You have an afterlife or no? Which is it? Yes or no?
You're 100% no afterlife whatsoever.
So you don't have a soul. How does your soul go to heaven if you don't have a soul to begin with?
It doesn't make sense.
Right. So is 100% doesn't make sense, or 99.99999% doesn't make sense? Doesn't make any fucking difference. Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make 99.9%.
I don't even think that would say 100%. You'd probably say 99.999.
0% sense. That's how much it makes. 0.
You don't have any hope? Maybe 0.1% hope?
Wait. I don't have any hope? Of course I have hope.
That there could be an afterlife, even if it's
0.0001%.
Not any hope whatsoever?
Why would I hope for something so hopeless? No. I don't want... No, that would be horrible. I prayed to God when I was 12 years old. I prayed to God when I was 12 years old, asking him to just let me die, because the very concept of an afterlife, when I still believed in God, was abhorrent. An eternity of perpetual existence kissing the ass of an indomitable despot forever and ever and ever, and never being able to you can't ascend forever. You can't do anything forever. It's going to become damnation. So realizing that at 12 years old, I said, just let me die. That's it. Don't need an afterlife. And then, of course, later on, I no longer believe. The first thing I had to let go of was hell, because hell is so ridiculous it can't possibly be real. And that was from the mind of a child. I realized then that hell was so ridiculous that it can't really exist, even if God existed. As a matter of fact, if God existed, then hell can't exist, because hell is a contradiction of God.
I agree with all that. You sound very, very good now. Pascal's wager is still going to haunt me. That's all I'm saying.
How?
It's going to be hard.
Christianity is true, you're not screwed, because that doesn't mean that Jesus is evil. That doesn't mean that Jesus is vindictive. That doesn't mean that he's going to... He didn't even say he was going to burn people anyway. He said he was going to crush the unbelievers in a bloody winepress. Oh, excuse me, that wasn't Jesus talking. That was what? Timothy? Some other schmo pretending to speak for Jesus? Because that's what all these guys did. They all pretend to speak for God. That's why God contradicts himself so often. He's got other tools speaking for him.
Can I, and I mean this to help. Are you haunted? You say you're haunted by Pascal's wager that maybe Christianity's true and you can burn in hell if you don't believe in it. Are you haunted by any other religions? There are hundreds of religions. There are older religions than Christianity. Are you haunted by any of those religions?
A little.
A little.
Any of them could be true. A little bit, but not. I don't know enough. I don't have enough knowledge.
Well, then that would be the best suggestion I could make for you, because I've noticed that there's an old saying that if you have a Bible, you may be Christian. If you have the Quran, you may be a Muslim. If you have the Bhagavad Gita, you might be Hindu. But if you have all three, you're probably atheist.
Yeah, I'm still thinking there could be a deist God like David, and that Pascal's
there
wager
wouldn't be a hell, would there?
that. But I know we already covered that.
The deist wouldn't have a hell. The deist God wouldn't have a hell. He doesn't give a damn whether we believe in him or not. So Pascal's wager fails again.
And
Right.
what you're doing.
You sound very good. Hopefully, I'll get rid of it. Hopefully, I can stop thinking about Pascal's wager. It's going to be hard, but hopefully, I'll get rid of it.
I understand, because the fear of hell was very present to me with Christianity and leaving Christianity, and it's not a made-up fear. It's instilled and indoctrinated into people. So we'd like to help.
Right.
Yep. Somebody in the chat says that you should try Judaism because they don't have a hell, and it's the Jewish God.
Do they have an afterlife? Do they have an afterlife?
No, they have Sheol. They have Sheol, which is the same thing as the Greek Hades. So there is a notion of a soul, which we don't have, but this was where the dead souls were supposed to go to be dead. And it was the one place where everybody's soul went, regardless whether they were good or bad or whether they believed or not. So now we know that there's no soul, so there's no Sheol, there's no Hades, there's no hell, there's no Valhalla, there's none of that.
Like, it's not reasonable. Is it reasonable to fear that as a child that Santa's not going to bring you any presents, put lumps of coal in your stocking? Is that a reasonable fear to you, Sam?
You're talking about children. Like when children die, for example, that's so sad if there's not an afterlife.
Isn't it sad, though, that parents raise children with a fear of hell, of everlasting torment and burning for eternity? For not just not believing in God, not pleasing God can send you to hell too. When I was a Christian, I was still afraid of hell because I ate shellfish. You know, it's very hard and very arbitrary to please God.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're going to get much further. Was it a 6 or 7-year-old who dies of cancer or who gets hit by a car? It's just sad that there's no afterlife for them.
I'm so very thankful that there's not an afterlife, especially in cases like this. You really need to think this through a lot deeper. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what you're suggesting as a blessing is really a curse. You just don't realize it. And I don't think we're going to get any further with this, certainly not explaining the same subject to you yet again in the same call. But we have other calls waiting, and I'd like to get to them.
Thank you, Sam.
Have a good one.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
All right, so I've got a couple others that we can bring up. We do have, I want to preference theists, and we have Chris in Florida who is having to rely on the idea of a higher power to keep himself sober. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, how are you? Can you hear me?
Good.
Yeah.
Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. Yes, I can hear you, Chris.
Just wanted to quickly just say hello, and Aron, I love everything you do. I watch all your videos all the time. I listen to them in my AirPods while I'm going to sleep. but I couldn't agree more with everything you say. I mean, every word that comes out of your mouth is spot on. Now, that being said, I do have some kind of a God in my life, and it has nothing at all to do with religion whatsoever. I was, my family when I was growing up was Roman Catholic, but not like hardcore. I mean, we went to church and whatever else, but it wasn't like extreme or anything. But that from a very young age, I just wanted nothing to do with any of that because I could just see how ridiculous it was even from, a young age. Anyway, so I am an alcoholic. I've been sober for 3 years now. And I mean, I'm a bad alcoholic. I've burned my life to the ground. I've lost everything. I lost my marriage, my child, my career, my house, you name it, my life today is better than it's ever been. And, I attribute that to Alcoholics Anonymous, Now, the program itself, they say, is a God program. And when I first heard that, and I went into the meetings, and I saw the stuff on the walls, and read the steps, and we talked about God and prayer and higher powers and all this, I was just like, man, you've got to be shitting me. This is ridiculous. So I tried working that program a number of times, but skipping over all that stuff, and it did not work. I could not stay sober. I've been in treatment 10 times, and I finally got to a point where I wanted to be sober badly enough, and I got desperate enough to finally just throw my hands up in the air and say, all right, fine, you win. I will do whatever is suggested to me to try to stay sober, and the only thing that I am doing different this time is praying to some kind of higher power. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it is. I don't even know if it's really there or not. If it is, I'm sure my conception of it is not even close to accurate. But, the main thing for me isn't necessarily whether or not it's real. It's the fact that when I'm willing to at least, as they say in the Alcoholics Anonymous book, lay aside prejudice and become at least willing to believe in a power greater than myself, I'll commence to get results. And that's exactly what happened for me. So the help that I received is absolutely real. Now, I don't know anything about whether or not there is or isn't a God. It has nothing to do with creation or anything like that for me. So I just kind of curious what your thoughts were on something like that, and whether or not you were at all familiar with the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's a chapter in the actual book, chapter 4. It's called We Agnostic, and it's written for people who have a very hard time with the idea of any kind of God, higher power, whatever you want to call it. And if that chapter wasn't in the book, I would be screwed. I would be probably dead. In fact, my identical twin brother, March 4th will be 1 year since he died from liver failure from his drinking. We're 41, so very young to die from alcohol. But
Congratulations. You're sober for 3
Thank
years, so that's quite an
Yeah,
accomplishment.
as somebody mentioned in the chat, if you're the character of Dumbo and you're on the precipice, you're about to go off, and you need to believe that you can fly, I know that it's not the feather that does it, but I'm going to let you have the damn feather till you figure it out.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's kind of where I am with it.
Mm-hmm.
I have absolutely no idea. They say that you need to find a higher power of your own understanding, and my understanding of it is that I don't understand it. But it turns out
The point of
good
Dumbo was to get him to understand what he could do of himself, that he didn't need the higher power, that he was capable of that on his own. It was just, that was kind of the point of the whole story, I think.
Right.
I
No, I can
get
definitely see that for sure.
the Bible kind of tells people to trust in the Lord with all their heart and to lean not on your own understanding. But, like, you have to. Your understanding is the only thing that you have in this world. Your ability to reason, you have to find a way to do it on your own, right, Chris?
Well, I mean, that's my problem, is that my way doesn't work. So, and I've tried it many, many times. And, I know many other people who have tried it their way. It didn't work for them either. The only people that I know who have managed to get and keep long-term sobriety have been people who have, quote, turned their will over to God. And
Well, I know a number of atheists who have succeeded at that. I know personally a number of atheists who've succeeded that way. There are programs. I've interviewed somebody on secular sobriety several years ago. It would take me a minute to find the link now, but I just shared in the chat a link to the Satanic Temple.
Smart Recovery.
Yeah, and then the Satanic Temple also offers Sober Faction, which says that they provide peer support recovery for addiction free from pseudoscience and superstitious dogma that is entrenched in most mainstream programs. And that can be a problem. But I do know people who have gotten past it, and I know a Christian who failed, and it wasn't because God failed. To me, I'm like, we get him to a psychiatrist, we get him to the drugs that he needs. I can't make him. I drove him to the psychiatrist. I drove him to the pharmacy. I can't force him to take the pills. So I show up and he's naked and drunk and falling all over himself. And I said, "Well, what happened to the medication? You just lied to me about taking it? Okay, well that was the end of a long time friendship there."
Right.
And he was Christian. God was helping him.
I understand where you're coming from, that your way doesn't work, but not everybody is born, nobody is born with a manual to how to live life, right? Nobody is. It's something you have to figure out on the way. So, like...
Right. I mean, my way of saying... Go ahead.
One way of trying to work this out are things like cognitive behavioral therapy, to where you can maybe learn to control your impulses and your emotions. Isn't that better than thinking something on the outside control?
I'm very familiar with a number of other avenues. I mean, I'm a certified recovery coach, which is different from being a sponsor. I'm actually, I have a certification. I do this for a living now, and there's a program called Smart Recovery that just completely eliminates the higher power stuff from the equation altogether. I've tried that. I've tried Recovery Dharma, which is more of like a Buddhist approach, kind of based on Buddhist principles. I've tried, you name it, I've tried it. And the only thing that has worked for me is really committing to working the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and relying on this higher power, which, it's the first time that I've actually been willing to do that, and it's the only thing that's ever worked for me. And the obsession to drink for me has been completely removed because I'm doing that. I know it's...
Well, I'm glad that you have found a way to be sober, because that's can be very destructive to your health, your finances, your life. Think about this. What if an atheist is struggling with alcoholism and they don't want the other part of AA? So, and let's say they live in a town where that's the only support group there. Isn't a secular approach better for everybody?
Well, I mean, I am an atheist for all. I mean, at least, agnostic, leaning almost over the line into atheism. So, I mean, that's me.
But you believe a higher power is helping you stay sober. Does that make you an atheist?
Well, no. It makes me agnostic. I'm
Okay.
just over the line, I think.
Yeah, I suggest you temper that. I don't have a lot that I can say about, certainly not about alcoholism. Although my entire family were chain smoking alcoholics, and I'm currently drinking a bit of rum, I don't consider myself an alcoholic because I don't always drink, and I don't drink till I'm drunk, and I've seen the way other people do,
Right,
and I
you have
have.
an off switch. You can set out.
Yeah,
to
I have a
two
beer.
drinks.
I have a beer with dinner,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. I
So
can't do that. Once I start, there's no off switch.
yeah. The only understanding of addiction that I have at all was when I was trying to quit smoking. That's a very different dynamic. But if I didn't have that experience of how difficult it was to quit smoking, then I wouldn't have any empathy for addiction at all. And I'm glad I had to go through that so that I could see my own weakness to tolerate it in other people. So that was important.
Right.
Anyway, I don't think we're going to be able to wet
I would
here.
I would just wonder if maybe Chris, maybe it's you. I mean, you say you're an atheist, but maybe you're sober because of yourself. Why don't you give credit to yourself?
Well, I mean, I do,
All right.
to some degree, but like I said, I give credit to myself for committing to following through with working the program and to sponsoring other men and trying to help them get sober, which is really, probably more so what keeps me sober is trying to help other men get sober. But, I do credit myself with not giving up and with being willing to commit to the program. But part of that willingness was being willing to rely on some kind of a higher power. And I can't tell you how many guys I know that have, come back into a meeting that had been sober 15 years, 18 years, 20 years, or whatever, and they relapse. And they almost always will say that the reason
hold on a second.
Yep.
I also hear your story that you are successful with being sober because of a higher power. But I'm also an ex-Christian. Knew all kinds of alcoholics and all kinds of people with self-destructive behavior that Christianity got in the way because they didn't.
Right. I mean, they
left it magic.
There are
they didn't
priests that are alcoholics.
So I mean,
there's priests that are alcoholics.
It's not that your story isn't meaningful, Chris. It's that it's also I can tell stories too. That's the error of anecdotes.
Well, it's not an anecdote.
That probably sounded more dismissive than she meant it to be, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess my main question is, because this reliance on this higher power is the only thing really that I can attribute to my sobriety and my willingness to rely on that higher power. Well,
I know some people have turned to
that I received is absolutely.
Some people have turned to medication. That's certainly more successful. Some people have turned to to psychiatry to assist them, and I can't speak personally to that, but I think I would sooner go that route than to make believe in other powers, because if you keep talking to yourself long enough, you can talk to an inanimate object long enough, and it'll start talking back. I don't want to play that game.
Share this comment from one of the commenters, and they are a secular alcoholic, and they said, secular alcoholic here, working on the recovery, and let me tell you, the best cure is self-awareness and community. No higher power ever helped me, because I cannot force myself to believe some higher power.
And I couldn't either for the longest time until I got desperate enough to, when I found out that, community and my own willpower weren't enough.
Yeah, there was a number of times that I tried to quit smoking cold turkey, and I would fail for different reasons. But eventually, I did quit cold turkey, And after I'd gone a month, I remember taking a hit off of a cigarette and realizing that it was like giving a blowjob to a car's exhaust pipe. I'm like, what the hell have I been doing to myself all this time? And that's when I knew that I had finally quit smoking.
Relapsing and recidivism is a part of addiction. And some people relapse
it can be. It certainly can be, and it certainly was for me. And I think that it was a valuable part of my recovery because it got me to the point where I became desperate enough to do the things that I was being told to do by my sponsor and by these other members of Alcoholics Anonymous that I wasn't doing, namely anything to do with God. And
yeah, somebody.
You know, but that's what separates, you know, an alcoholic from, you know, even a heavy drinker or whatever is the fact, you know, that like this, you know, whoever was in the comments was saying, you know, community and self-reliance, you know, if you can stop drinking, if you're a real deal, you might not be a real deal alcoholic if that's enough to keep you sober. Because, you know, I don't have time to get into the entire disease and everything right now, but you know, it's been proven to me over and over again, and pretty much any alcoholic that I know, that self-reliance is not going to keep you sober. Community,
Okay, well, that's
for sure.
Yeah, that was the only thing that got me off cigarettes, and it wasn't easy. But I mean, that's what did it. Anyway, I don't think we can go much further with this. So I want to thank you.
Okay.
And
well, thank you.
We'll move on.
And I love your stuff. I'll continue to be a fan. Thank you.
Thank you kindly. Good luck to you. All right, then. We have one more theist. And let's see. Well, I'm going to just go ahead and pick this one up. We've got a couple. Actually, no. I've got one here that has been suggested. I take this call. So, Rick in Florida, you have a question about a debate that I should do.
Yeah.
Hello, Rick.
I don't know if you ever heard of Ken Owens.
Yes, I've debated Kent Hovind over and over again. I've got a couple of playlists.
Not that shit. Candace Owens.
Who?
Candace Owens.
Candace Owen?
She's yeah. Just imagine a black woman, Matt Dillahunty that's still blazing religion.
Why are we bringing up Candace Owens? For what reason?
I just was watching her on a debate with woke people, and she was tearing them up.
Okay, so why should we know about Candace Owens? Rick, quick summary for us.
Yeah, she was watching on a debate with TI, some other guys, and this woman was wearing a cross, and she was wearing a shirt that said something about hell. She was going to hell. She asked her about why she was wearing a cross and wearing that shirt. She liked it, and she goes, "Well, I believe in God." That's on. I kind of changed the channel.
I am not able to. Lilandra, were you able to hear everything he said?
No.
Because I'm getting a lot of distortion on my end.
It's my phone. I'm using a headset.
Okay. Well, there's a bit of static, and it cuts out a little bit. I've had this problem with every one of the calls that have come in, so I don't necessarily think that it's you. But you wanted to ask a question about a debate I should do. Are you asking me to debate Candace Owen?
Well, I was funded to be interesting. I mean, she's last watching it today. She was setting up pretty quick.
All right, I got to. That's what I'm hearing.
Okay, sorry. I get my headphones. I can let you go. I got a cheap set of headphones.
Okay. I don't know what to say about that.
Aron, it's definitely.
I heard you say I got a cheap set of headphones. I was able to hear that.
Yeah.
I don't know what else we could do.
Talking about Walmart.
Okay.
I
How
don't
about
know
that, Aron?
with a better line or something on your phone, maybe.
Yeah, maybe try it without that. I don't know. Anyway,
Okay.
maybe we just maybe we'll try calling in another time.
I know who Candace Owens is, kind of, just to sum this up, but I really was more interested in why Rick thought we should know about Candace Owens. What
Yeah.
about Candace Owens, you know?
I asked him
But
3 times, but I wasn't able to understand the answer.
Yeah.
All right, so Rick, we're going to let you go.
Okay.
I haven't hung up on him yet, but it sounds like he dropped anyway.
Okay.
All right, I'm only getting separated syllables, so I can't make sense of that. Okay, so now we have let's see, Patrick in South Carolina. How you do?
Hello.
On SkepTalk.
Hey. Yes. I had a question for y'all. I am deconstructing my faith, and I believe in evolution. I believe in natural selection, like radiometric dating, and that we can measure the age of the universe, the stars, and stuff like that, and the Earth. And I'm just trying. My family, and people I know, they don't believe that. But the people that I'm just wondering, how do you deal with that without you kind of making them, I guess, upset, or trying to deal with whenever those kind of conversations come up, or kind of situations you don't really want to say anything that would maybe set them off, or kind of lead into more of that detailed conversation.
Okay. Rick. So if I'm understanding your question here, and he's a little choppy too. I don't know if there's anything we could fix in the production, but
It seems to have been every caller this evening.
Yeah, but I think he's saying that he believes or accepts evolution and natural selection, but his family doesn't. How can you bring it up in a way that doesn't upset them? Is that what we're talking about, Rick?
Yeah, the problem here is the mindset. I think, in my opinion, you've got people who will accept evidence, and you have people who only go by authority. And we can disprove the authority, and the people who believe in authority will still believe the authority. The facts don't matter. And so, like in the case of my mother, for example, I could prove evolution all day long, but she wasn't going to believe it until she got permission from her church to believe it.
And it's mainly it was a question on how you kind of avoid how do you deal with those situations in if you don't want to go into those kind of situations, try to avoid talking about it, because I don't know what their, for example, my family themselves don't know, but I told some of my friends what I don't believe, and outside, and what I do believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing somebody else. Go ahead.
Rick, I'm not sure why Patrick. Okay, gotcha. Rick, if you don't want to go into it in the first place because it upsets your family when you're around them, it's fine for you to set a boundary about what you don't want to talk about. You could say, I just don't want to talk about this. But if you mean it in another way, if how could you bring it up with, or how could you respond to them if they bring it up? They, I'm assuming, like you, so you can use that connection to maybe get through to them because they care about what you think.
Yeah, I, on the other hand, I just had to accept that some people just can't or won't understand some things. I've seen adults in my family drop to the floor, fingers in their ears, eyes closed, going yeah 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 because they realized I was making a point, and they can't let themselves believe. They have to believe what the authority says, even when everything says that it's wrong. And I've seen many descriptions of faith down through history where different people, over time have said, phrased different ways, that faith is being determined to believe something even when all the evidence says otherwise. So I don't offer hope that you're going to get through to somebody that has that sort of a mindset.
Like just recently, like today, I had a conversation with one of my friends that he is very, he pretty much believes everything I and like we were talking about how, um, for example, like radiometric dating and how it works, and he just told me that he just couldn't believe it, like, and he said that if like this with all, like, and when I told him that I didn't really believe, like, the Genesis story, like, he just said that, like, if all these don't connect, then, and like my religion is false, and I just am, my life is eating. And I felt really sad that he felt that way.
Yeah, and the believers often have a fixation with meaning and purpose that I frankly just never understood. I never understood why people thought that there would be a meaning to life, or why they had to imagine that they are so important that they are the reason that the universe exists, that everything was created just for us. That's all. And they tell me that I'm arrogant for not agreeing with that.
Aron,
So
Yeah.
yes.
maybe if we could try another caller and see if it's still difficult to understand what they're saying.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know what else we can do, Patrick.
Yeah,
I would just
no, your
try to.
answers are off. Your answers are really good. Thank you. They're very helpful.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next caller, and I'm going to hope that we don't have the same issue that we've been having all evening, because we don't usually have it on this show. Usually it's pretty clear. But thank you, Patrick. Okay, and so now we are talking with Milton in Maine.
Hello, Milton.
Hello? Can you hear me
Yep,
clearly?
I can hear you.
Yes, I can.
appear. Yes,
Oh,
I think I
pretty good.
can.
Oh, good. I'm using a phone, not some headphones, and mine aren't cheap, so.
Thank goodness.
Well, you are coming through consistently,
Yeah, so-
sir. You're the first caller of the evening that has done.
That's pretty good, because I did have a lot I wanted to say, so it's pretty good that I come in clearly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what
So
do you
I
want to talk
am, and Yeah, yeah. What is it? What does it say under there that
Well,
about
the
me,
reason
like
there are
that you
smart
know so
people,
far?
there are smart people and good arguments on the Christian side. Well, I'm going to be
Oh, okay,
dumbfounded as I've been doing this for so long and I've never heard a good argument. But let's hear one.
yeah, yeah. So just a little bit about smart people on both sides, because I think good arguments and smart people are two separate claims. So I'll tackle them each individually. Smart people, basically, I grew up Mormon. I left my faith, went into high school, and now I'm a college student, and I've been talking to a lot of Christians on campus who are very intelligent and who have been talking about religion and philosophy and science in a way that I just don't normally see Christians talk about, and so that's the smart people side. I've been exposed to a lot of smarter, more educated, and more intelligent Christians who use good arguments too. So that's just where I'm coming from, I guess.
Wait, you said you're used to good arguments, or that you just recently started hearing good arguments?
Milton, I didn't catch this. Are you a Christian?
No, I'm not a Christian. Or at least I'm not. I was raised Mormon. I don't know if you consider that Christian.
Well,
I know that all my family considered themselves, they were all Mormon, or most of them were Mormon, and they considered themselves to be Christian. So
and I had southern Baptist family. They didn't consider Mormons Christians, but for me, I don't. There's lots of creeds. It's hard to say who's a Christian and who's not. So, but you're not a Mormon.
I guess. Well, I would say I left a few years ago, and I'm sort of ever so slightly coming a little bit back, or at least I'm not thinking theism is as unreasonable as I used to think. That's where I am right now.
And you feel like you're coming back to it because there's smart people that are Christians? Is this what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, I'm keen to hear, what are these good arguments?
Okay, let's hear a good argument.
Yeah. We did talk a lot about that. So, one argument that I heard, most of them tend to take a little bit of time to explain, but the most convincing one that I first heard would have been an argument of change involving. Are you both familiar with Parmenides' paradox?
Who?
Did you say Fermi's paradox?
No, Parmenides.
Parmenides?
As an ancient Greek philosopher. Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Go ahead.
Summarize what that is to us?
Okay, so Parmenides would argue that change is impossible because essentially something is coming from nothing. So when something appears to change, it must only be that, an appearance. And he believed this because if you were to take the example of, say, an ice cube of ice, there's no liquid water there right now. In order for it to melt and there to become liquid water, the liquid water would have to come from nothing because there's no liquid water there before, and then there's liquid water after.
Okay, so who believes that something came from nothing?
It was Parmenides. This isn't what I believe. It's just to set up
Parmenides believe
a few
something came from nothing.
No, he believed that change was impossible because change required something to come from nothing.
Which
bit of a weird belief.
First failure. So change does not require something to come from nothing.
Hold on a second, Milton. You just described.
I would agree with that.
In the state of matter. So ice turns to liquid water.
I'm not describing what I
still
believe per se. I'm just yeah.
It's just frozen
I'm
water.
just it's so Parmenides would say that change requires something coming from nothing, but Aristotle would have argued differently. His response to this problem was that change does not come from nothing, but that change comes from potential. The idea is that the water is not coming from nothing; it's coming from potential. It's the ice cube has the potential to be at a different temperature, which is actualized by the temperature of the room. Yeah.
But you understand that change starts with a thing and then changes that thing, right?
Yeah.
So
something
change does not
causes the cube
never
to
ever
melt.
come from nothing. Change does not ever involve something coming from nothing.
But then,
If I wasn't clear enough, I don't believe that change is something coming from nothing. I just want to clarify that.
Okay, but your analogy, you were saying frozen water, which is ice, can change to liquid water based on the temperature. It didn't come from nothing. It didn't change from nothing. It just changed state. It's still the same H2O molecule.
Yes. I'm not arguing that something comes from nothing. I'm just, I guess, setting up a paradox in philosophy and then highlighting Aristotle's response to that. If that makes sense.
At what point does this become a good argument for God?
Yeah.
In a little while. It takes a little bit.
How long?
Set up. Basically,
how long do we have to get there?
Should maybe about 5 to.
Are there going to be any other
4 or 5
false
minutes?
premises like that change requires something to come from nothing when we know that it doesn't, and nobody believes in that anyway? Well, actually, the creationists are the ones who believe that God created everything out of nothing. He spoke the incantation.
No, that's the only one, by the way.
He created the material out of no material. So, but that's not change.
No, that's the only one that I'm going to be introducing. That's an argument that's clearly wrong, and we know is intuitively wrong.
Well, I was asking for a good argument. I don't believe there is one.
Yeah. I'll continue with what I was saying. Basically, Aristotle argues that it's not something coming from nothing. It's something. It's a potential of that object being actualized by some other thing. So the cube melting is actualized by the temperature of the room. Now, the something to be actualized must be actualized by something that is actual. So a cube is not going to melt unless the room's temperature is actually greater than that of the ice cube. As an example, a room, the room itself only came into existence because what it was made of had the potential to be that, and so on and so forth. The idea is that this eventually forms an eternal regress of something could potentially be something else, and then it's actualized by something that is already in existence or actualized, and this goes back infinitum until eventually you either get to an infinite regress or something that, let's not necessarily call it God.
No, Aaron, I was speaking first.
It never becomes a good argument for God.
Milton, you said that ice has the potential to be liquid water, but it doesn't just have the potential. Yeah. It's already water. It's already the H2O molecule.
Well, it's not in the liquid state though, and it's not going to be H2O forever. It has the potential to become another molecule too. But I guess one part of this argument from change from this standpoint is that something doesn't change arbitrarily. It changes because something else acts upon it. And the argument here is that like something that ended up changing was actualized by something else, which itself at some point changed by something else that changed it, and eventually you get this regress. It's the beginning of a regress of something
It's turtles all the way
something
down.
that was constantly changing. Yeah, that argument. Yeah.
So it
I
never
don't think it's
becomes a
sufficient
good
'cause-
argument for God.
Yeah.
Okay, and so this,
I wasn't saying I wasn't just saying God. This sets up an argument for something that is purely actual and does not have any potential, which is not necessarily God. But
Okay, well, you said there are good arguments on the Christian side. That wasn't one of them.
yeah,
now the argument that things change,
I would.
things have the potential to change.
Yeah.
This is what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like an object at rest change its motion if acted on by another force, right? Things can change their direction, etc., and speed, velocity, whatever. But how is that a good argument for God?
The argument is that in order for it to change, it has to be acted upon by something else.
And this involves God.
But that thing, I should also preface this by saying that most Christians, or at least most of the Christians I'm talking about, that I would consider to be very intelligent, wouldn't reach a conclusion from God on the basis of any one particular line of reasoning, but it's rather a cumulative case. And I'd also like to say that even if many of these arguments of infinite regress arguments don't necessarily get you to the Christian God, I do personally find it very strange to believe in something that is an infinite actualized cause which basically holds up all change in the universe. To believe in something like that and still be a Christian, still be an atheist, yet that does seem to be the conclusion that would be reached from the argument I'm giving.
I am lost. I'll accept
Is this the God argument that there's something acting on everything that's causing it to change and it's God? Is this what we're driving toward?
No, I know that's not what I'm getting to.
I don't know.
It's not that God is causing everything to change. It's that change requires something outside of whatever is changing to actualize that change.
And is that God? Is it God?
No, it's not. It's not God. It's not God.
Then why is that a good argument? Why are you telling us this?
You said there were good arguments on the Christian side. I am aware of a list of exactly 0 good arguments. You have so far added to that list no good arguments. Is there a non-zero greater than 0 list of good arguments? Can I hear one of those?
Are you there, Milton? Is Milton still there?
Looks to be.
Hello, Milton. I don't know. Maybe he can't respond. Are you muted?
No, I don't think so.
I still didn't get what he was driving at. Like, I mean, and everybody was like, they're missing the connection too, and it was lasting a long time, and I didn't feel like you were getting to the point.
And it never points to God, but somehow that makes it a good argument specifically for the Christian God. So, yeah, I'm a little lost. All right, we don't have any other... Do we have any other calls? I don't think we do.
No, sir.
Nope, they hung up. So I guess that's it. We don't have any more incoming calls. I think the moderator said he was going to stop at 7:25. Yes. So we're gonna. I guess we could read super chats at this point. What do we do? Oh, there we go. I'll take the first one. $5 from TaylorMade28. The stiletto snake has side protracting fang. Most venomous snakes have either front or rear fangs. What is the evolutionary reason for this? Well, glad you asked me. The stiletto snake is a lamprophiid, which is an intermediate clade, but it's an intermediate family group between the colubrids and the elapids. Now, the colubrids are your common corn snakes, grass snakes, rat snakes, king snakes, that sort of thing. The elapids are where you have all of the deadly ones, the really deadly ones, the cobras, the bush adders, the taipans, all of that sort of thing. In between those is a group called Lamprophiidae, and that's where you get your stiletto snake. Now, there is a mutation that has been discovered in operation. This is the sonic hedgehog gene has been traced in operation as they develop. The fetal development of these snakes shows that they start out their fangs in the rear-fanged position, just like venomous colubrids. I have some venomous colubrids behind me. I was just holding one earlier today. And what happens is, in their development, there's a mutation that warped the fang from the back, which directly below their eye, to come out in the front. So it's sort of twisted upside down. Now, a similar mutation occurred in vipers, but the mutation that occurred in vipers pushed the fangs to the front and gave them a hinge feature, whereas the one in elapids just put the fangs in front and left it fixed. But with lamprophiids, they're intermediate, so that their fangs are not quite, they're not fixed, but neither are they hinged. And so that's what gives them the ability of poking one fang out to the side. And the difficulty with that is that, a lot of people will think that if you grab a snake and you hold it right by the head, that you will have seized it in position and it can't get you. But the stiletto snake still can. He just turns his head a little bit sideways, jabs you with one fang. Probably a longer answer than you wanted. All right, LeAndre, you take the next one.
Okay. 1999 from Squimbly. Hello, Aron and Lilandra. I love y'all's work. What's y'all's favorite creationist arguments to go up against? You go first.
My
Aron.
favorite is that idiocy about, well, you believe everything came from nothing. I'm like, no, that's what you believe. Not me. You have a favorite here?
There's so many, and they're all rooted in distorted falsehoods, right?
Yep.
Like Aron's
I'll give you
foundational
another
falsehoods
favorite.
are fundamentally flawed.
Yeah, the one about one thing turning into another fundamentally different thing, which they can't even give an example of, and which evolution never taught. So that's just something they pulled out of their ass. And most of the ministers who use this know that that's an invalid argument, but they're going to keep repeating it anyway.
There's many distorted type arguments that any evidence they find from science is planted by the devil. Like fossils, there's a creationist who believe fossils were put there by the devil.
Yeah, I like the one that where fossils were placed there by God in order to test our faith.
Last Thursdayism. God created the earth to look like it's old. Like it's aged. Yeah. With fossils and all.
Again, to test our faith.
I had a oriented person. Okay.
$5 from Monkey at Typewriter. LeAndra is always a delightful host. I feel like her calm demeanor really cuts through a lot of defensiveness. More of the illustrious Ms. Ra, please.
Thank you. I'm not on the line more often because I don't have as large a platform as other people do. And I do things in the secular community, like I just gave a presentation on a cruise, but a lot of my efforts go into Orange Channel.
Well, I want people to know that you're the reason that I have been to the state capitol with a picket sign in my hand so many times. Yeah, is my wife?
I'm the reason God made
my wife had motivated me to do a lot of other activism that I wouldn't have had the idea to do on my own. You got this one, dear?
Yeah. $10 from Pibblepunk. Half dog, half canine. Now, how could that happen? You're all dog, all canine, right? Doesn't make any sense. I may never have the means to go to a college, but Aron, you inspired me to start studying biology on my own. Also wish I'd found your channel back when I still believe. Might have gotten out sooner.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you so much for that. All right. And then $10 from Fate of Silver. Sam is right about one thing. I still haven't gotten over hell completely. The trauma of indoctrination and fear tactics to keep me in church still affect me. I never experienced that myself because my family didn't teach a lot about the hell thing. They being Mormon doesn't really fixate on the hell thing so much. But I certainly saw it in my wife. It was years of recovery for her. You know, nightmares and that sort of thing.
Hell was an ever-present threat in church. You're going to hell, they're going to burn the lake of fire. Christians will tell you that other Christians are going to be like Lazarus, looking at people in agony in hell, begging them to give them some water and stuff, and they'll just be like, see, you should have listened, you know? It's like,
yeah,
it's so cruel.
Yeah. The next one, $10 from the Raven 200. Hell yeah, Aron and Lilandra Ra. Aron, tell Abath to stop trying to get me to summon Ningishida. I have no bottle of scorpion pepper. Oh my gosh, I must find it. That would be my suggestion. Carolina Reaper has a pungency that I don't particularly enjoy. It is hotter, but the scorpion is hot enough, and it makes everything taste better. Next up, Lilandra.
$5 from the Raven 200. He, him. My favorite Christian, any theist, really, argument would be Pascal's wager. It's so bad and so irrational. Jimmy, go take a twin lion fist. Okay. Yeah, the Pascal's wager is like just some like way to threaten people and be passive aggressive about it. It's you're going to hell, buddy. You know, without saying you're going to hell, buddy. You know. Go ahead, Aron.
$4.99 from WWAA without higher power R1. Okay, $4.99 from WW. And then the quote is, AA, without higher power, 1, realize you have a problem, 2 M's, 2, clean your mess, 3, do better, moving forwarded, 4, help others. I'm thinking that they were texting this on the phone on a bumpy road.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, WW.
Okay, gotcha. $5 from Monkey at a typewriter. Wow, we found the one that can type and make sense. That's pretty cool. I don't know if everybody can hear my dog coughing, but he's going through some things. I fostered a dog, and he's a little sick right now. Anyways, as a lifelong atheist, I always found it borderline infuriating that people were teaching little kids to be their own tormentors. Good show, y'all. Yeah.
Yep, agreed.
That's very true.
And that, I guess, is it. So I need to let everybody know that, let me see, the Wednesday, we're not doing a show Tuesday, tomorrow, but on Wednesday there will be the Hang Up with Matt Dillahunty and John Gleason. And then Thursday is Transatlantic Call-In Show with Arden Hart and Katy Montgomerie. Then, of course, the Sunday show with Matt and Katy again, and SkepTalk, which will be 1 week from tonight, with Shannon Q and Maya Adkinson. Or Adkisson. I need to say that correctly. All right, and then we have another super chat, $5 from Fate of Silver. Show me the dog.
Let me see if I can show you the dog. There he is. That is Big Mac.
Here we go.
Hello,
Big Mac is a bull mastiff.
He's struggling with heartworms. We got him from the shelter. that way, and he gets his shots in this week to try and see if he can get rid of them. I'm really worried about it because it's really harsh.
Yeah, my wife tends to foster dogs from the pound. Very charitable spirit.
He is a very good boy. It's true. If somebody was saying he's a good boy, he is a super good boy. He's beyond. He's the best boy.
He's the best boy. All right, Morgan, where to from here?